Shortly after we are born, we're compelled to adapt to an artificial environment. We're obliged to adapt to an artificial environment. We're in trouble if we don't. So we could say that this artificial environment, which I'll try to spell out in a bit more detail in a minute or two, is like a giant, merciless bully, kind of a classical, typical, archetypal schoolyard bully. And what does a bully do? Well, generally speaking, a bully will bully you. I think that's one way of putting it. And the bully will bully you for being different. So if you're different, the bully or the bullies will spot you. And the bully in question is the artificial environment, is society. And what will happen, and every adapted human being is a representative of society. They're not acting on their own behalf most of the time, but on behalf of this thing, this entity that we're calling society. So the bully spots us for being different, and then bullies us and bullies us and bullies us relentlessly, ruthlessly, until we stop being different, and then the bully can't spot us. In a way, the bully can't spot us, of course. That may not be true for any one specific bully because they recognise our face, but no other bully will spot us, because the key to avoiding bullies is to be like everyone else. You're invisible then. You've become invisible. You're not going to be picked on, probably not going to be picked on by a bully. And you are, by virtue of this action which you've just taken to become the same as everyone else, to avoid being bullied, you've become a representative of the entity which we are calling society. You've become its face. You've become, to put this simply, you actually have become society, really, if we're not going to be beating around the bush too much. You have become the generic self, and the generic self is a creation of the social system, because that's what the social system is. It's a whole load of generic selves, a whole load of generic people. Now, we can't blame society for producing generic people, because society is a bunch of generic people. If you had a bunch of non-generic, unique people, that wouldn't be society. It wouldn't be a group that has agreed to see things in a consistent way, or to uphold certain values as being true and other values as not being true. Society can only be society when it's a duplication of a basic pattern. And this pattern, this specific pattern, this way of doing things or thinking about things or seeing things that we call society, as I've just said, will pick on us for being different, and pick on us and pick on us and pick on us until it gets driven to some crisis point. Now, what we'd like to do is become invisible. But the fact of the matter is, if we could have been invisible, we would have been. The very fact that we're going around not being invisible means, the very fact that we're going out, standing out in this way, means that we're not able to adapt. Because we certainly would if we could, because no one wants to be going around feeling like the odd one out, like you're going to be targeted at any moment. And it is absolutely the truth that when we're talking about generic human beings, we will be targeted, because you could actually say that this is some kind of rule or principle, that when I am a generic human being, when I've managed to become invisible and become a representative of the system as a whole, then the good thing is that I am invisible and won't be bullied. But the bad thing is I've lost who I am, because I'm now the system, and I wasn't originally the system. Nobody was originally the system, and there isn't actually a system at all. There only seems to be when we all conform to it. Then that creates this illusion that there is a system. It's a very powerful illusion, a brutally powerful illusion, but it is an illusion because it's only created by a kind of act of mass cowardice, really, if we were to put it like that. Now, it's a curious thing, but some of us are able to adapt to the system, while some of us aren't. And it's my feeling that most of the people who aren't able to adapt to the social system, they would if they could. I mean, that's what people usually say. I wish I could be like them, like everyone else. I'd give anything to be like them. But we can't. For whatever reason, we just can't. It can also be the case, theoretically, that we just don't want to, and that this is kind of like some act of bravery on our part, that we refuse to conform. I don't see any reason why that couldn't be the case, but it seems to be fairly rare. Speaking personally, in as much as I have had experience of feeling that I don't fit into the system, which I have, it's because I just didn't know how. I really didn't, and quite possibly still don't know how to be the way that we're supposed to be. To a large extent, I do. I can get dressed in the morning, and I can shave, and I can pass for anyone else, but on some level there is a discrepancy, and whilst I'm not affected too badly by it, that's mainly because I've learned to cover it up. And also, when you get older, as opposed to being a child in a playground or a child at school, the bullying factor is not so huge. You can kind of get away more with being different when you're older, in other words, on the whole. But anyway, that's kind of going off topic a bit. The crucial thing is that I started off saying a while ago that when we are representatives of the social system, when we are generic units in this way, then we automatically bully people who aren't. It's just a mechanical thing. There's unacknowledged pain in us as a result of not being who we are, and that pain needs to be expressed. And if we can express it by picking on people, being mean to people who are legitimate targets because they aren't like everyone else, then that will feel good. It feels pleasurable because I am getting rid of pain. So when I manage to pass on my pain, my negativity, well, you could say it becomes negativity to someone else when I pass it on, then I feel good. That feels pleasurable. So that becomes a really big motivating factor. And that's an important part of how the system works. Because if we get to be accepted and approved, and we get to have recognition and status, then that gives us a license to judge or be mean to people who haven't got that recognition, who haven't been accepted. And that is essential. We do need to pass this pain on to someone else. And no matter which way we talk about it, it always comes down to bullying. picking on someone for being different, as if to say you're wrong to be different, therefore you deserve what you're getting for being different. But it's not that we actually really give a damn. It's not like we would like to see them be the same. We just want that excuse to release the pain, to pass on the pain, passing the pain on, passing the buck on. We just need to be able to do that in whatever way we can. Now, once we do adapt to the artificial system, and of course become artificial ourselves as a result, this may be considered to be success. People will look at us and think, he's a success, or he's made it. But that is only on the level of theatrical appearances. It doesn't mean that my life is enriched on the inside, because it hasn't. Because there isn't an inside. There isn't an inside to the social system. It's all outside. It's all images. It's all appearances. So we put as much emphasis on those appearances as we possibly can. We invest a hell of a lot of attention on them to make them as glossy as possible. Because if images are the only thing that are real, which is the case in the social system, because there's no inside, it's an exterior life, there's no interiority involved. Interiority is always unique. No one person's interiority is in conformity to another person's interiority. That's not how it works. But one person's exteriority, i.e. the image of themselves, the image they're projecting, can be in conformity with everyone else's image or appearance. And that's why we put so much effort in not just matching other people's appearances, but trying to be a little bit glossier if we can at all. And it is no exaggeration to say that there is a phenomenal amount of effort put into this to get the image. How much effort do we put into getting the image, optimizing our image, getting it to look really, really glossy? And the answer is a huge amount, because that's all there is. That's all we believe in, is the image. You are your image in this world. So it better be a good one. And if it isn't a good one, if it's a bit tatty, if it's a bit crappy, a bit frayed around the edges, then that is an unreservedly bad thing, because you are the image. So we can see from that, and this is undoubtedly true within the theatrical world of which is society. It can't be anything other than true. Then, even though we might think we're benefiting ourselves by trying to build up our image or smarten it up a bit, make it look as attractive or as impressive as possible, that isn't really doing us any favors. We're trying to become invisible by cultivating the image. And becoming invisible means turning our backs on our uniqueness or individuality or our interiority. And these are all equivalent ways of talking about the same thing. So the world of the theatrical world of images is a very, very cruel place. We don't pay attention to how cruel it is, usually. We don't dwell on that. We'll gloss over it. And we'll look upon society as being kind of an arrangement of decent-minded people who are fair and compassionate and all the rest of it. But no matter how compassionate people might be, the dynamics of the theatrical world cannot be changed. And the dynamics of the theatrical world are very cruel dynamics. So when we're equal to our image, we will be accepted, approved, adored, liked on the basis of our image, if that image is good. And that is a cruel thing. It's a cruel thing because, one, that image isn't us. So we're identifying with the image and we're imagining it's us, and we're taking on all this approval, and that feels good. But really we're being coerced to turning our backs on us, on who we really are. So that's we're not being bullied because we are the same as everyone else, but we are being bullied because somehow we've been bullied by the threat of being bullied. If that makes any sense. I think it makes sense. So we're being bullied either way, whether we are successful in becoming invisible, we're being bullied. If we're not successful, then we definitely are being bullied. And we might think things are great when our image is in the ascendant, but as soon as that image gets tarnished in any way, we will be reviled and rejected and all the rest of it. I mean, there's no need to go into that particular dynamic very much. You can see it happening in the whole world of celebrities, and celebrities is like a kind of very pure picture of image life. When you become enough of a celebrity, you become an image, and you're not a human being anymore. You're an image. You're an image to yourself as well, and that's a very superficial thing, but you don't realize that. And so in this world of images, the celebrity world, as it is said, the public love to adore them and they love to hate them. And that's in equal measure, to be elevated and to be thrown down. And that's cruel. It's a cruel existence. You're living on a knife edge. Adulation and approval can turn to rejection and condemnation like that. And then because we have no interiority, because we have nothing other than the image which we think we are, we have no way of other than feeling the full sting of rejection. And the full sting of rejection, which is the same thing as feeling like a failure, at that point becomes so intense, so overwhelming, that there's nothing to mitigate it. It is pure pain with nothing in us that can help us bear the pain or not be so badly knocked by it. Because when I am the image, I have no inner strength, I have no interiority. I can be buffeted one way and I can be buffeted the other way. I can rise so high on praise and I can sink so low with insults and condemnation. So is that good? Do I really want to be like that? To be infinitely vulnerable to the vagaries of whatever the hell is going on? Even the good feeling that I have when my image is being approved of isn't doing me any good, as I've already said. That is such a ludicrous thing, because I'm feeling good on behalf of something I'm not, as if it is me. So it is a disguised form of suffering. The pleasure of the adapted self or the self-image is always disguised suffering. It's actually us burrowing deeper into the false or artificial world, which really it's all suffering. There seems to be a way out by being successful enough or getting your image to be good enough, but there isn't, because even if we have the best image ever, that is at the price of our interiority, and it's worthless. So the one thing that we are discouraged from getting to know anything about is our interiority. We chase success in the outside world and we fear failure. And the very notion of interiority, that there is an interior world, is utterly alien to us. So it is fair enough to say this situation is a heartless situation, an utterly cruel situation that can't do anyone any good at all. And yet this is absolutely the world that we have created for ourselves, and that we congratulate ourselves for creating. We think we're smart. We're complacent about it. It's the most inimical situation that you could imagine. An utter travesty. As anyone who's ever looked into it has said, the only people that don't say that are those that are content to exist on the level of the image, on the level of pure appearance and nothing else. And so when we discuss mental health, we talk about all sorts of things and we come up with all sorts of theories. And the one thing we never talk about or look at is this horror that we have turned life into, which is a situation where we have to adapt to an artificial world, as if adapting to an artificial world can ever do us any good.